the resolution analysis, the A subpoints the resolution the USFG should substantially decrease its shale oil output. The B subpoints the weighing mechanism evaluates the grounds for a policymaker, which means that you'll be pairing the plan versus a competing policy option or the status quo. The C subpoint is the inherency. The first argument is that shale production is currently increasing in the status quo. The A subpoint is that the American shale oil is expected to be growing by about 122,000 grow to about 122,000 barrels per day. This is about 5.4 million barrels of oil, per day, or no, per month, which is a lot. The second argument here is that currently that multiple countries have been banning the amount of shale that they're allowed to produce, which we can look towards France, which ban all hydraulic fracturing, as well as various states which have proposals, such as New York, which recently banned shale. Thus, the plan: the United States federal government will ban hydraulic fracturing. I think that's pretty simple. The United States federal government will ban hydraulic fracturing. Solvency, we can do this, it's enforced, we've seen it works in Europe. Advantage 1 is green energy. Uniqueness. The first argument is that production of high shale right now is crowding out green energy investment. The A subpoint under this is that when before the shale boom was happening, the green technology investment into green technology was really high, but after the shale production happened, the green technology fell. The B subpoint is that you can look towards recent statistics towards the beginning of January, the number of green energy investment fell by 16%, which is an indication as to why things are bad in the status quo. But the second argument here is going to be that green technology can solve our energy problems. The A subpoints that according to the Department of Energy that by 2050 that we can use majority of renewable energy to solve for all of our energy demand. Actually, that's A subpoint, so forget about that. The third argument here is going to be that, however, renewable energy is not getting adopted in the status quo because of the fact that there's nothing to trigger it into infrastructural switch. That according to the EIA, only 16.5% of energy generation by 2040 will be from renewable energy. And the fifth argument here is going to be that renewable energy is cost competitive right now. That the PV panels have decreased by 63% since 2010, and also by 2020, the cost for solar is expected to be only 3 cents per kilowatt. For conventional types of fuel and energy will be 5 cents per kilowatt, which is an indication as to why cost is low right now. But our uniqueness indicates that people are still not going to be switching despite these costs, and the reason for this is because of the fact that they have no incentive to be switching in an infrastructural way. And the fifth argument here is that currently the climate leadership from the United States is low because of Trump's recent withdrawal from Paris, which makes a lot of countries uncertain about whether they want to commit towards reducing their energy output or their carbon dioxide output or not. Links. The first argument is that this reduction of shale is going to be directly helpful for reducing carbon emissions because when you frack, that causes methane leaks, which is really bad for the economy or the environment because it's 80 times worse than carbon dioxide, which means that the plan is independently able to resolve for that. But the second argument here is that this is able to mark a shift towards renewable energy because it triggers this actual infrastructural shift towards renewable energy. And the third argument here at the end of this is that this means that investors will be more willing to go towards renewable energy investment, which means that this is able to magnify our link impact. And the fourth argument here is that this is going to be critical to climate leadership because now the United States will be seen as taking a stand against this carbon dioxide. What was it?
Can you specify some renewable energies that will happen?
Solar, wind, etc. The conventional ones. Well, I can't tell you which ones are going to be happening, but internal links. The first argument is that green tech is going to be key to solving back to global warming because it emits no carbon dioxide. But the second argument here is that shale fracking is uniquely harmful because the wastewater is dumped on areas where primarily minorities live, and that's really bad impacts. The first argument here is that global warming is going to cause extinction because the ocean acidification means that the phytoplanktons all die out because of the high acidic level of the ocean, which means that triggers a massive extinction. But the second argument here is that global warming causes resource wars, which inevitably is going to cause economic collapse. But the third argument here is that we were able to resolve for things like environmental racism by preventing fracking from being wastewater from being dumped, and this wastewater is really bad because it contains carcinogenic chemicals which causes cancer.
What's your climate leadership scenario? Is it going to make the Paris Agreement better or what?
Well, our argument here is that this makes countries more certain that they should be committed to the Paris Agreement because they're not just on their own, that the United States is taking a stand. Okay. Advantage 2 is Venezuela. Ooh, I didn't see that. The first argument is that low oil prices right now is really bad for Venezuela and is causing instability in Venezuela. The second argument here is that as a result of the massive increase from shale oil from the United States has caused Venezuela's oil export value to drop by 50%, which is really, really bad. And the third argument here is that oil is about 95% of their export revenue, which is why all of this low oil prices mean that Venezuela is at a risk for very bad instability. The fourth argument is that Venezuela is currently in a recession, that their economy has shrunk by 7.1% in the third quarter last year. And the fifth argument here is that they currently have about $185 billion of debt that they have to pay back. And the sixth argument here is is that default is coming really soon. That on July 13th, the S&P said that the default is probably coming in 6 months because they have to pay all back all of their debt, but they don't have the money. And that's the seventh argument, that they only have about $10 billion left in their reserve, which means that they're actually projected to run out this year, which means that default is coming really soon. And the eighth argument here is that hyperinflation is happening right now, which means that there's a lot of political also instability happening in Venezuela right now, because there are like riots going on right now, as well as food shortages, and that there's a high propensity for Venezuela collapse. Links. The first argument is that Plan is able to resolve this because we completely reduce any shale output, which means that there's no more cheap oil, which means that Venezuela will be able to gain that money. That according to Alejandro Zela, a Latin American economist, he says that the only way that Venezuela could possibly regain its money is through a fast recovery of oil prices. And the second argument here is that because they are able to increase their export revenue, that means that they now have money to pay back the debt, which means that they are able to prevent any form of a default. And the third argument here is that this is going to be critical to resolving financial stability, because if Venezuela defaults and all the hyperinflation problems are going on, this is going to trigger massive political instability, which would mean that the Venezuela government would probably collapse in Hillary. The first argument here is that Venezuela political stability is critical to maintaining the stability of various other Latin American countries. That if you look, that they provide critical infrastructural and oil support to economic support to Caribbean and Latin American countries. So I think that any political Venezuela collapse would also go regional. But the second argument here, this would also go global, because Venezuela has a lot of backing from countries like Brazil as well as Ecuador, which means that Venezuela economic collapse would necessarily transfer over to countries like Brazil, which means this would ultimately have a cascading effect and go global. And the third argument here is that there are also lots of foreign investors which currently hold Venezuela like debt bonds, which is really bad for them because they would lose massive amounts of money if Venezuela defaults. The impact here is going to be economic collapse, specifically because like there's going to be a global recession, which is really bad because it increases the propensity for war. Because when like the things are doing bad domestically, people like to look towards other countries in order to like as a diversion to prevent people from looking at the bad things happening at home. As your firm.
Okay. First is going to be 2 off, and then the off case. Also, okay, is everyone ready? Great. My time starts now. The first disadvantage is oil economy collapse. A is uniqueness. 1 is that oil company values are rising in the status quo. Subpoint A is that the Exxon market cap is $355 billion and Saudi market is estimated at $10 trillion. 2 is that the oil economy is stable right now, but there's a risk of a bubble. Subpoint A is that the bubble is slowly deflating in favor of renewables and the status quo. 3 is that the oil bubble pop would be devastating. Subpoint A is that it was $100 per barrel in August and $54 per barrel at the end of last year. Subpoint B is that oil companies cut 60,000 jobs when this happened. 4 is that oil companies are flocking to North Dakota, which controls the oil production market. 5 is that shale oil creates jobs. Subpoint A is that a study by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Energy Institute said that jobs boom even in states without oil deposits. It created 1.7 million jobs and projected 3.5 million jobs for 2035. Subpoint B is that in North Dakota, it created 123,000 new jobs, and it caused a 40% rise in personal income and the lowest unemployment rate in the U.S., which is 2.7%. Okay, the links. 1 is that decreasing oil production devastates all major oil companies and 2 is that oil companies can't move. A is that it's expensive to pay for contractors. 3 is that wells are dry right now. They spent $2 billion in the Beaufort Sea, and it was dry, and $7 billion in the Arctic. 3 is that oil companies will decrease output so much that they won't be able to remain profitable anymore. Like, they won't be able to do this type of fracking anymore. 4 is that this leads to a shift which pops the bubble. Like, currently, like, renewable energy is going up in the status quo and the shale bubble is slowly deflating. But if we pop it immediately, then that's going to hurt the economy. And 5 is that oil is key to the manufacturing industry because they need the oil for things like trucks and transportation. Internal link, this collapses the economy and leads to an increase in oil prices, which leads to layoffs and a cycle of poverty because people are going to be laid off, which means that they won't be able to get jobs. And also, this means that the price of gas is going to go up, which is going to make it significantly harder for people to have transportation because they won't be able to get gas. The impact, investors will lose trillions of dollars. People in poverty have higher rates of illness and lower life expectancy. This disproportionately affects the poor because they'll have less access to transportation, and these things such as gas matter more to poor people. This exacerbates income inequality, which is bad because this leads to a cycle where the economy gets worse and worse because poor people have more spending power when the money isn't moving around as much. This just means that less jobs are created, and this is just going to have like a multiplier effect. The second disadvantage is energy security. The union says that in the status quo, shale reserves create energy security in the U.S. One is that the Chamber of Commerce finds that U.S. energy security risk dropped to the lowest level since 2004, and shale gets most of the credit. Two is that the CEO of the Energy Institute said that shale couldn't have come at a better time. The links is that absent shale, the U.S. would be exposed to devastating price shocks. One is that U.S. energy security risk is projected to rise without shale, and is two that maintaining diverse energy supply is key. Three is that shale is key because it's entirely domestic and unsusceptible to foreign conflict. Price shock scenarios, Saudi instability, their collapse is coming. Internal links in energy security is key to infrastructure. One is that it's the lifeblood of civilization, according to The Guardian. Two is that 80% of U.S. infrastructure is powered by oil, so it would be uniquely devastating. And three is that when the UK decreased its output, it was like a slow-motion car crash, and they lost billions of dollars. The impact is infrastructure. One is that it shuts down hospitals. Two is that this destroys supply chains. And three, this turns case because there will be no more innovation for shale. Now let's go on to the app sheet. Yeah.
Can you explain what exactly an oil bubble is?
Yeah, it's like...
This is that. The price of oil goes up and up. That's what a bubble is.
Yeah. Okay. On the background, they said that shale production is increasing in the status quo. That's not true. Shale production is actually decreasing in the status quo. It decreased from like 30,000 tons per barrel to like 25,000 or something like that. They said that companies are bringing shale, but we would say that if you get rid of shale, that means that we turn to coal, which is even worse because coal leads to more emissions than shale does. Yeah, because shale is cheaper than coal, and shale actually provides an incentive for people to abandon coal. Okay, and shale also produces half as many emissions as coal. On green energy, they say that we're crowding out energy investment right now. That's not true. Green tech is actually increasing right now because of the Paris Climate Agreement. Many states have agreed to adopt it, even though Trump hasn't, which means that green energy is actually increasing in the status quo. They say, except the fact that they say it will solve for energy problems by 2050, which means that in the short term, they are going to collapse the economy, which ultimately means that's the internal link to any of their advantages, because if the economy is collapsing, then we cannot solve for green energy at all. We have to decrease shale slowly, and the status quo is solving right now, which means that if we just collapse it right now, that means they can't solve for any of the problems they're facing. They say that there is no incentive for people to switch, but I'd say the fact that it's cost competitive is an incentive for people to switch, and they say that climate leadership is low right now, but their plan does not solve for this because it doesn't create any goals to decrease carbon emissions. All it does is ban the state, which is going to collapse the economy and make it even harder for people to innovate or solve for green energy in the future, because if the economy is collapsed, there's no way we can innovate further and produce new green technology. They extend the fact that they say that it decreases CO2 output. You can cross-point my turn about how this is going to only lead to more increase in coal, which is going to increase emissions. On how it reduces carbon emissions, no, it actually doesn't reduce carbon emissions that much compared to green tech, and there's no way that people are going to be investing in green tech if the economy is collapsing. They say that there are methane leaks, but these are inevitable because of cows and other forms of drilling. They say that investors will be more willing to switch because of this, but we say that it's just going to cause a collapse and it's going to hurt them so much. You can cross-apply impacts on how investors are going to lose trillions of dollars, which means that they're not going to want to switch. They say that it's key to global warming. Global warming is inevitable. We've already passed the brink of 400 parts per million, and What?
Other countries would still pollute.
Other countries would still pollute. On the part about environmental racism, the status quo is solving right now because shale innovation is actually increasing the status quo. There have been research efforts by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Office of Fossil Energy creating new technology to treat water and are designed to protect water, and research to assess the risk of earthquakes, and modernizing U.S. energy infrastructure to provide energy security benefits and support fuel diversity. So the status quo is already solving for any of the bad impacts to fuel that you claim. On the Venezuela, where's your sheet? Okay. You link it to your own global warming advantage here, because if you say that Venezuela is going to increase their oil output, that only means that they're going to increase the risk of global warming. So if you try to claim that you're solving for global warming, you're not, because Venezuela is only checking back for this. Also, oil prices are terminally low right now. The OPEC kicked Venezuela to the curb.
And are still decreasing oil prices.
And are still decreasing oil prices anyway. The plan doesn't solve because they'll only turn to other oil sources. Their uniqueness extends overwhelms the lake because it leads to political instability is the root cause of the problem, because the government is fundamentally corrupt right now, which means that if Venezuela is getting money, that only means that the government is going to become more corrupt and use that money for its own purposes. So turn, this actually makes it worse. The government is literally holding food back from its citizens right now. This is only going to make the government more corrupt to give them more funds. Also, the impact wouldn't spill over. The global economy is resilient, and Venezuela is transitioning now to energy. They're diversifying their energy. So turn, all this advantage does is it makes the Venezuelan government more corrupt and allows them to hurt their citizens even more.
Photo, please.
The order is going to be plan, here, and then.
Can you say that one more time?
Okay, so it's going to be the plan, the Zeng case scenario, and then the Altos. Is everybody ready? Okay. So on the inherency, they say that shale oil production is decreasing right now, but we just give you a more recent date to why shale oil production is increasing in the status quo, which means that global warming is going to become it's going to be exacerbated because shale oil production is going so high up right now. They also extend our inherency theory about how France and New York has done this and it has been successful. So if we're not seeing any of the disadvantages that they brought up of oil economy collapse in these situations, then this means that their disadvantages don't apply. They also say that coal is cheaper, but basically places are we're not going to transition to coal because we see in 2015 plants plants shut down and 4.6% of the energy that came from coal was actually decreased. So what this means is that people are not going to turn to coal. We are giving you specific articulation on why they're going to be turning to renewables. We see that renewables provided 64% of energy sources in the last year. So what this means is that investors are going to see renewables as a more viable option than coal. Okay. So now onto oil economy collapse. They tell you that they're shifting in favor of renewables right now, which means that there's no reason that the bubble is going to pop because it's going to be a stable, it's going to be like a stable transition into another economy. It's not going to be like we're just decreasing all of the energy production in an economy. Also, they talk about jobs turn. For every 4 jobs that oil provides, renewable energy provides 9 jobs. So what this means is that we're going to be increasing the amount of jobs that these people are going to have. When they talk about wells being dry, that's exactly our point. The fact that wells are dry means that the oil economy, the bubble is going to be exacerbated because wells are drying up, which means we're putting so much money into investing into oil, and then we're going to see that the wells aren't there anymore, which means that the oil bubble has a chance of basically collapsing in that world. Also, they said that the oil bubble was caused because prices are decreasing. They said it was caused because prices are going up, but we see that prices are actually going down in the status quo. Oil prices are at a historic low, so there's no bubble scenario here. On manufacturing, basically we're seeing that renewable energy sources also make manufacturing jobs possible. And again, cross-apply the fact that investors are looking into renewables more than coal right now because of a perceptual link into renewables are more perceptually good for investors, and also they have been more energy efficient. So renewable costs are actually going down, and you can cross-apply Shirley's analysis at the beginning, which means that there's no cost advantage for investors to be investing into anything aside from renewables. On the green energy scenario, right now we're seeing that our investment basically isn't diverse. Shirley gives you the specific articulation that the reason green energy investment has been going down is because of shale oil production. So the only way to stop this is to basically make sure that shale oil production is decreased so investors can see that renewables are a viable energy source. Also, green energy solves for the energy sector. So and in terms of Saudi collapse, there's no Saudi collapse, and also the plan is about the United States. So we're not The plan props up Saudi because they get more revenue.
Yeah, also the plan props up Saudi Arabia, if anything, because we're giving them more revenue, so there's no Saudi scenario here. And it basically doesn't turn case because, I'll go on to my green energy advantage on why it doesn't turn case. So on our green energy advantage, they said, first of all, you can basically extend through the climate leadership scenario. They don't really make a response to this, which means, basically the climate leadership scenario is that Donald Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Treaty, but he's been making contradictory claims since then, which means that, which means that people don't really know where to look or where the United States stands on this issue, which means that if the United States cuts shale production and investment into renewables increases, basically what's going to happen is, other countries are going to follow.
The argument to extend is that it's costing which is that the only thing we need is a trigger.
it's cost competitive already, but the only thing that we need is a trigger to make sure that investment into green tech increases. Also, climate change is not inevitable because we haven't hit the 2 degrees Celsius tipping point yet, and only our plan can solve for this.
And then when they say no innovation, we already have the tech.
Yeah, when they say no innovation, like we already had this technology, and we're making the argument that this technology is only going to get better with more investment.
And then extend that by 2030, we would only have 16.5, which means that the status quo can't solve it.
Oh yeah, extend by that by 2040, we're only gonna have 16.5, which means that basically the status quo doesn't solve for this. Also, our date on the inherency is more recent, so we're seeing that green energy, investment in green energy is actually decreased after shale oil production. Yeah, so we're seeing that we're the only ones controlling the internal link to increase funding into renewables. The oil costs in over here we're seeing that they're going to continue to produce oil. The only question is the revenue. How much money are they going to be making off of the oil? If the United States decreases or stops their oil production, then they can continue making money off of their oil. Also, they aren't diversifying. Oil is like the number one resource that it's able to sell. And also, they talk about how other OPEC nations or other countries are going to increase their oil production, but there's no incentive because if the United States takes it out, they basically have the same amount of prices, and they're already making a lot of money off of oil, so there's no incentive for them to change it. Also, increased production means that price goes down, so they don't want to increase production because they want to keep their revenue stable. If they increase production, basically what's happening is the operating costs are getting so high that they're not making money off of oil anymore, which means that the climate leadership scenario is the only one that controls other countries being able to continue to solve for climate change.
They say political instability, that's not going to trigger unless the default happens, because the status quo is stable.
Okay, on political instability, that's not going to trigger unless the disadvantage happens, and we basically took that out. And again, they also said that money is going to go to the government, but the money is actually going to go to corporations. They didn't really make it
to pay back the debt.
Yeah, to pay back. Yeah, so the government right now, the reason it's so unstable is debt. They didn't really respond to this, so you can extend through that the reason the government is so unstable is because they don't have enough money to sustain themselves. So if we're giving them that amount of money, then we're the only ones that are inevitably going to solve for corruption. Yeah, and then you can extend the impacts of economic collapse, and so we're controlling both the impacts of economic collapse, which leads to war, and the impacts of global warming, which leads to extinction.
This is going to be an overview. Oil econ collapse this side, energy security this side, topic case, advantage 1, advantage 2. Is everyone ready? Overview, oil econ collapse this side, energy security this side, topic case, advantage 1, advantage 2. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Overview to the round. Shale is incredibly important for energy security, and the affirmative functionally does nothing but shift our oil supply away to more in unstable countries, which means there is only a risk that you vote negation. Go to the oil econ collapse. They said you can extend there is no bubble forming right now. I don't even understand this scenario, which means there's probably no impact to the oil econ collapse. They said you can also extend that wells are dry right now. That's thermal defense against the oil econ collapse. They said go to the energy security. They said. They say that our oil supply is not diverse now, but the fact of the matter is that, well, it is diverse now. I think we are way ahead on the warming debate, that we have the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of other people saying how shale came at the best time ever, and it is incredibly important for energy security, that the United States literally made a graph of energy security in the United States, and right when we found shale, energy security increased, or it was it's a graph of energy security risk. So energy security risk decreased as a result of finding shale, and it could not have came at a better time, which is an indication that we were getting 100% linked into this disadvantage. And they say there's no Saudi collapse right now. That's the year that the bottom of this is at. We say that our scenario is that Saudi collapse is inevitable. That gives us a scenario for price shocks absent shale, which is the reason why price shocks are happening now in oil shale, and only shale, which is a domestic United States oil source, is able to suffer the oil shocks. Saudi collapse is inevitable specifically because their consumption right now is increasing, but their economic growth is still slowing, which is really bad news for them because they rely a lot on oil exports right now, which means that they rely a lot on oil exports right now. But if their own oil consumption is also increasing, that means they have to decrease their oil exports, which would inevitably trigger a Saudi collapse scenario, or at least it would trigger like a lot of like. It would trigger like an oil shock for the United States, which is incredibly devastating. You can extend the interlinks and the impacts about how oil is, how energy security is literally the lifeblood of the civilization, and this is especially true for the United States, where 80% of our infrastructure relies on oil, which is incredibly important because that would completely collapse like most of our infrastructure. And also, they say that there's already innovation, that there's already technology for renewables right now. However, no, you can see that there's no your own advantage says that there's no infrastructure for renewables right now, which means there's still a barrier to renewable energy in the scope that only the planet is able to solve that only the status quo is able to solve by maintaining energy security and like a stable economy. That is the only risk you'll ever get for innovation. If you completely collapse the economy, there's no risk at all for renewable energies. Go to the top of case.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So is your energy security scenario a question of lots of types of domestic like energy, or about like foreign independence?
I think it's about like a lot of just types of energy sources in general, right? If you get rid of shale, that is going to make your oil supply a lot more unstable. That's what the study said. Go to top of case. They say that renewables are more valuable right now. I'll probably cover a lot of this on their first section. However, we will still make two arguments. First, that renewables are still able to occur. You can see that they are cost competitive, which means that renewables are inevitable in the status quo. Secondly, is that they're also like impossible because you have made the own argument about how there's no infrastructure for renewables right now, which means that oil is probably going to be inevitable because it currently funds 80% of our infrastructure right now. Next, you say that you're able to thump our dissets because it happened in a couple states. However, that's because shale is not concentrated in those states. It's going to be concentrated elsewhere. You can specifically say that they made the argument about how oil companies are flocking to other places right now, which means that just because one state banned shale does not mean anything.
Not a state.
Oh, and also New York, right? Okay, but France banned it. That's not the United States. The United States has way more shale reserves, and New York is not the entirety of the United States, which means like if you banned it everywhere in the United States, that is what would trigger our impacts there. I think it's pretty clear that one state isn't going to trigger like energy security price shocks and infrastructure collapse, right? Go to their green energy advantage. On renewables, you have thumped your own advantage that there is no infrastructure for renewables in the status quo, which gives us a lot of uniqueness for the turn that we made on this argument that we would inevitably just switch back to coal or to other oil sources. For example, Canada is developing tar sands and they want to build a pipeline to the United States, and Trump has expressed propensity that he wants to do this, which is an indication that they're only going to shift to oil and coal, which already have the infrastructure, but not renewables, which means that you have no solvency on your green energy and you only make climate change worse, which means we're able to turn the entire disadvantage. And you also, next, you can also extend that methane leaks are inevitable because of cows and other forms of drilling. Next, you've also conceded that climate leadership is the status quo right now. That is Jody's argument that states are already taking up the mantle right now, which means that the Paris Climate Agreement is already being enforced because the states are able to be like, hey, Trump is messed up, but at least we're going to be doing this green tech investment anyway. Next, also, there's like literally zero scenarios for Trump maintaining climate leadership because he is literally good at the EPA, which means there's like no risk of climate leadership happening under Trump, which means only states that are able to solve it, and the status quo states are solving. Next, also we will make the analysis that the first advantage is already able to take out the second advantage. If you grant them any link scenario whatsoever about how we're able to shift to renewables, that would still collapse Venezuelan economy, which means they've made an internal contradiction in their case. They're probably in a double bind somehow because either they shift to renewables and solve global warming, or they collapse Venezuela's economy, which is incredibly problematic. They can't do both things at once. And yeah, that's it. Okay, on to Venezuela. First, you can cross-apply the term here again. We're only going to turn to like other sources of oil, like from Canada, or we're going to turn to coal instead, which is an indication why we would never rely on Venezuela in the first place. But you can also extend that oil prices are terminally low right now. That OPEC still is going to be producing massive amounts of oil and decreasing oil prices, which means it's not a question of whether the United States is buying oil or resolving these oil prices, because OPEC is still going to be setting the price in the long run. They've already decided they want to kick Venezuela to the curb, which means that you're never able to solve your scenario because the United States isn't key to oil prices decreasing or whatever. And also you can with this one more You can also extend the impact even here about how global economies are resilient right now, and how Venezuela is transitioning in the status quo, which means that the plan is only going to make Venezuela like rely more on this oil, and you're never able to solve the structural problem of how relying completely on oil is incredibly problematic for your economy, because it only like makes you more susceptible to these like oil to lower oil prices. And like when your entire economy is completely reliant on oil prices, I think like in the long term that is really bad, which means only the status quo is able to force a shift from for Venezuela into like renewable energies, into like other more sustainable types of energy development, which means only the status quo is able to solve for this. So for all these reasons, because energy security is incredibly important, and infrastructure outweighs in terms case, we're a strong vote for the innovation.
Okay. Overview, our energy security advantage, and then the application order. Everyone get that?
Oh, can you please repeat that one more time?
Yeah. Overview, the energy security disadvantage, and then the application order. Is everyone ready? You will be voting negation in today's round based on time frame. Our disadvantage controls the internal link to all their advantages, which turns their case, and they also concede turns on their own case, which means you are going to be voting negation. Basically, if U.S. energy security collapses, that means they can never attempt to solve for global warming or Venezuela right now, which means, and also U.S. energy security is more important than Venezuela's, because U.S. energy, economy has a much larger spillover because the U.S. economy is so big. So we would say that turns their own case, and we are better able to solve in the status quo. Yeah.
New analysis that the new analysis that the U.S. is more important because it's bigger is new analysis.
I'm just doing impact.
It's a panel.
Okay. Continuing. All right. Now go to the energy security disadvantage. They concede our uniqueness, which is that we are diverse right now, and they basically concede that the status quo is doing well. We are shifting to renewable energy, and that there's an energy security risk, which means that they try to say that, it won't matter because we have energy infrastructure in place, or they say that we don't have green energy infrastructure in place, which means if you just decrease all the oil immediately, there's obviously going to be a collapse, which means that collapsing energy is going to lead to a collapse in the infrastructure. At the point where the status quo is slowly decreasing, that's going to be able to solve better because you don't have these impacts of collapsing these infrastructure. If the U.S. infrastructure collapses, that means that it's going to destroy supply chains and shut down hospitals. This leads to poverty and U.S. economic collapse, which is very bad. This is going to happen. This is going to happen right away because as soon as they ban oil, energy security is going to collapse. That's the first impact that you should be weighing in this round. It's the most probable impact because they concede our uniqueness, and you should be preferring probable impacts because they're the most real world. And you shouldn't be voting on things that are predictions like 2050 is so far away that you can't be voting on things that are happening so far in the future. This is the most probable and proximal impact in today's round. Now go on to the app case. They try to say that investors will shift to green technology because it's seen as a more viable option. Don't buy this warrant. Green tech is increasing in the status quo, and renewables are inevitable, which means that there's only a risk that the status quo is solving for this problem. All they do is collapse energy security, which means that they won't be able to solve for green energy at all. If there's no energy security whatsoever, then there's no reason why people would want to shift to green tech on the green energy advantage. They're going to try to say that they're solving for global warming, but we are actually solving for global warming better because if they collapse the economy, then there's no way we can solve for global warming. There's no infrastructure in place right now. All that's going to happen is that people are going to shift to things like tar sands and coal again, which is actually worse for the environment. You should be skeptical of their warrant that green energy is going down right now because they also don't offer an incentive for people to switch. All they do is ban coal. They're going to try to say that other countries will follow, but don't buy this claim because we see that they don't set any caps for what countries have to do, which means that other countries aren't going to have any incentive to follow this anyways. You can extend the fact that methane leaks are inevitable, and this is renewables also collapse the Venezuela advantage. Onto the Venezuela advantage. Again, there are other sources of oil. Oil prices are low right now. There's literally no reason to buy why the U.S. is dependent on Venezuelan oil or why Venezuela would get any profit from this. Not only that, again, you see that a Venezuelan collapse scenario is not very probable, and a U.S. energy security collapse scenario is by far going to outweigh that because the U.S. has a lot more people, and the U.S. probably supports Venezuela, which means that our disadvantage controls the internal link to both of your advantages. In the status quo, we have renewable energy increasing right now, and innovation on shale energy and energy security. We are slowly switching to a way where we are solving for global warming at a slow pace, but if they implement their plan ASAP, it's only going to collapse energy security. You're going to be voting here on time frame and probability. Since they concede our warrants, just vote on the energy security DA, and this turns their entire case.
Then add 2. You can pull the overview on add 2. Then the energy security decide. Or wait, actually, yeah. And then add 1.
Hang on, so add 2, energy security, then add 1.
Yeah. Cool. Is everybody ready?
You can see that Venezuela default is coming very, very soon. This is going to take out all of your arguments about how you solve for energy security, because at the point where you're doing lots of work about why economic collapse is the most important impact, that means that there's no chance that you will be able to resolve for economic or diversity or whatever in your world. On the Venezuela advantage. I think that they misunderstand what the Venezuela argument is talking about. The argument is that when the United States floods the market with a lot of shale oil, this lowers the price of oil, which means that Venezuela is not able to get any of the money from exporting its oil, which means that Venezuela can no longer pay back any of its debt because it's not gaining any revenue. They have never addressed any of this argument because I think they fundamentally misunderstand and mishandle this when they talk about how the U.S. is not buying oil from Venezuela. That doesn't matter because the scenario here is that Venezuela is not able to gain any revenue right now, which is why default is coming really soon. They make this analysis about how Venezuela default is not probable. I think they can see the analysis from the S&P, which says that default is literally coming in 6 months. That means that this is the fastest time frame, especially when they have not isolated a single scenario on when energy security is ever going to become a problem, which is a very good indication as to why you should probably vote on the scenario first. And additionally, there's only they also make this analysis about how Venezuela there's only going to be terminally low prices because OPEC wants to cut prices. Look, this is completely illogical. OPEC is trying to cut down production because obviously when the supply is high, and that means that prices are low, which means that OPEC is not able to gain any money, which is why all of their analysis about why OPEC is going to flood the market with supply simply makes no sense, because OPEC wants to keep supply down so that they can make lots of money, which means that this analysis simply does not apply. No. Okay. Okay. That means that all of these impacts about how any Venezuela default collapse means that this triggers global economic collapse is going to be really, really problematic for them, because that means that there's zero innovation in the world, or in their location, that there's no risk that they're ever going to be resolving for any of these energy security impacts. But additionally, we have also isolated other scenarios that is probably going to be outweighing any of their energy security impacts, because there's no impact ever going to energy security, which is why you will be buying the fact that economic collapse means that means that there's a high propensity for war, which is probably the largest impact of today's round. Going to the energy dissent. You've extended the wrong defense on the wrong dissent. You say that oil wells are dry and are going to dry up. That means that your energy dissent is probably going to be inevitable, because that means that we're always going to be losing all of our shale, which means that it's a question of when we are able to resolve, or when we are able to switch. And at the point where you can see the lots of uniqueness arguments about how right now our switch to renewables is not fast enough, that means that there's only a risk that the plan is able to resolve for this by switching to renewables right now. You say that we are able to switch slowly right now, but that is not going to be sufficient enough to solve that for this, which is an indication as to why your energy security is not only fundamentally non-unique, but also an indication as to why only the plan is able to resolve for this. But additionally, you can cross-apply all of the analysis that they make about how the economy is going to be critical to all of this innovation. That means that even if the dissent that means that there's no chance that you're able to resolve for any of your energy security, because there's no more renewable energy that we have. And when you're making lots of good arguments about how that we don't have the infrastructure to install all these energy, that means that you completely collapse all of the innovation necessary to actually install these renewable energy, which means that when your whole collapse happens, that means that there's no renewable energy that we can install because the economy has already collapsed. But moreover, we're probably winning on time frame arguments here, because we said that default is coming in 6 months. There's no isolated time frame scenario for when energy security is going to be not a thing, which is going to be really critical, because that means that there's really no isolated impact here as to why energy security is a good thing in the first place. And next, we talk about how Saudi Arabia collapse is inevitable. Okay, there's really no impact to this. But additionally, the fact that oil wells are dry right now completely takes out any of your arguments here. On add 1. There's just a couple of arguments I'd like to extend here. The first being that the fact that by 2040 we will still only have 16.5% of renewable energy generation. That probably means that your dissent is not that's the status quo, which means that the status quo is not able to resolve for any of the diversification, which is why it's going to be which is why the plan is going to be uniquely key. But additionally, you also make lots of arguments about how there's no infrastructure. That's fine. We're not going for advantage 1, but the fact that there's no infrastructure means that there's no risk that your dissent is ever able to solve for this, because you completely collapse all
completely collapse the economy, which means that there's no any innovation to resolve for any of the infrastructural demands, which is why there's only a risk that the plan is able to resolve. Also, this little thing about how oil and coal is going to be going up because we switch. I think you can extend all of their arguments about how we're never going to be able to resolve for global warming anyways, which means that there's not going to be any offense coming off the whole oil and coal and methane inevitable. That's fine. We're not going for that. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah. Go out.
I don't.